Most people would tell you that vice presidential debates don't move the needle.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Last night, at Impact estimated that last night's vice presidential debate had a total viewership of 67.3 million, with peak viewership reaching 52.2 million. And that's a lot of people.
Looking at it.
It's a lot of people. And so the reason why I think that this debate will move the needle is because a narrative collapsed last night.
Yeah.
The media has been telling us for months now that JD Vance was a knuckle-dragging, misogynist, moronic, weird woman hater, that he was not a nice guy, that he was mean, he was weird. And Tim Walz was America's dad, the embodiment of joy. He's just overly qualified governor of Minnesota. He's like a teddy bear. And oh my God, I'm not saying this, but people are like, he's sexy. He's redefining masculinity. And come to find out last night, that all collapsed. Every bit of it. And, I've looked at multiple focus groups from the New York Times to Frank Luntz and other people who don't necessarily share my views because, yes, I'm a Trump guy. I'm a ride or die Trump guy. But those people, like, by and large, their focus groups of what they say are swing voting moderates, mostly that lean Democrat, are, 3/4 of them to 80% of them are saying that JD Vance was better on every issue, and they're more likely to vote for Trump Vance because of that debate. So absolutely. I think he did a great job appealing to the middle, right? But also just another total fake media narrative collapsed. And it's just the media they've just been posting one L after the next this entire cycle. What do you think, my friend?
So I just shared something because we talked about this. Yeah, we talked about this on now I know it's gonna be funny. All right. This is I know it's funny, but listen,
you're such a high. What's wrong with you? Where did you find this?
I'm gonna give you this simple story, but it's deadly serious though, how like this impact this, right? All right, so get this, okay? This is what we talked about. What you just said is what we talked about earlier on Inside the Numbers. Everybody knows me. Everyone understands, that I am very consistent when it comes to this stuff. The Biden debate, normally presidential debates don't matter. You can count the number of debates that actually moved an election, arguably, not even conclusively, just arguably, on two fingers. On two fingers. There has never really been a vice presidential debate that has fully moved the needle at all, right? Except the Biden debate was a bit of a
anomaly.
It was an anomaly because of what you just said. That the media narrative and everything that people were being told, even though the right, and others, supporters of Trump and opponents of Biden, have been arguing that was true, that entire media narrative collapsed, and it became clear that his critics, his critics were telling the truth, and the media had been lying to people. Last night, kind of the same thing happened. It just was less.
Why are you torturing me with this graphic? You're making very serious points, and I'm looking at Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd, and Walz looks exactly like Elmer Fudd.
He does. He really does. I didn't want to give away to people where I was going, but body language matters, right? And the images that our minds create matters. And I told people, just pretend for a second. Let's do an exercise. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. Let's do an exercise and just listen to this clip and pretend you don't know JD Vance. Pretend you don't know Walz, right? And pretend you definitely don't know what party they are the nominee of, and listen to this answer and tell me who you would vote for. Body language matters so much, right? All of this matters. And it was the clip about Vance saying he knows what it's like, and his Mia, went into healthcare debt to be able to make sure, that food's on the table, that the lights are on, that rent's being paid, right? Anyway, this is what people, even though I already had the image in my mind, this is what, and I didn't have Bugs Bunny. I was really more focused on Walz. I said, tell me, what you think, what images come to mind when you do that. Clear your mind of what you know and try, and just, give me what your take is. And I had the Elmer Fudd thing, and then I also had an alternative one, which was one of the Dopey from the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely got a dopey vibe. Yeah.
People were automatically equating it with Elmer Fudd, and someone on Locals actually made this and said, who says there isn't no such thing as the perfect meme? I actually didn't have the Bugs Bunny part, but man, that works, right? So here you have, though, what does this really say, right? What does this really say? It says, and I made fun of him too with the shotgun of Elmer Fudd, as if this schmuck really went to high school with a shotgun waiting to go quail hunting after school was out. I mean, what a fake story, right? But it's just so ridiculous. But this is the image people got, and they equated it to like Vance being so much smarter. He's like the Bugs Bunny, and he outwitted the dumbass Elmer Fudd, right? And it's like here, and certainly an alpha male, but the compare and contrast is very stark. You have a young, smart, articulate, handsome guy, well-spoken, right? And he represents youth and MAGA and the dynamic nature of that coalition. And then you just have this old, crusty has-been who's a fraud, who couldn't articulate anything. If you go through some of he's just an Elmer Fudd. I mean, the faces that he was making where you're like so Elmer Fudd-like, and you could watch him really struggle as Vance is like giving these answers that are witty, like Bugs Bunny witty, right? And you could watch him looking, because he never looked at the camera when composed like you're supposed to. When the consultants come at you, they tell you, no matter what your opponent says or how hard, be careful what kind of faces you make, and just stare into the camera and smile like you're confident and you're steady, right? He couldn't do that. He did the worst possible thing. If I was his advisor, I'd throw my shoe at the TV. I'd be so mad, right? Like, you stupid idiot. What did we talk about 100 times, right? That's why nobody hires me, because I call them dumb and to their face, and I'm like, you're incapable of listening. Like, why are you paying me when you're just a stupid idiot who shouldn't be running for office? You can't listen. You're worse than a child. Anyway, like, I just berate people like that, because candidates will run away from you. They will. Anyway, he's staring at Vance, and then you can see he remembers what the consultant tells him, and he pops, then looks in the camera because he remembers the response and he wants to say something, and he gets a stupid look on his face like he's dying to get it out. And then he realizes, oh man, he's saying this again. So he turns his head, and he doesn't like it because he knows it's politically damaging. He knows he's landing a hit. And then he realizes, oh, right, the consultant told me. And he goes back to the camera. It's so bad when you're like someone like me, folks, who have gone through debate prep. You know what's going on in his mind, and you know what's happening, and you realize how bad it really is. And then when he finally gets to get that response out, he just sounds like a dumbass Elmer Fudd who's trying to repeat it word for word, and he says the most canned. It comes out so canned. It sounds like Elmer Fudd delivering a canned response.
I swear to God, what I kept thinking during this debate, I just thought that the word that just kept coming to mind was he just looked buffoonish, and all of his facial expressions, everything else. And he knew, because a couple things stood out to me, because he knew he was losing. And so his strategy as he went on was just to be as agreeable with JD Vance as possible, just to stop the bleeding, to not have a contrast. If people like JD Vance, well, they'll like me too, because we agree on everything, right? And so that was his strategy. But there was also something about his body language that was really telling, is that when JD Vance was just shellacking him, he would turn to the moderators on the abortion issue and say, this was fact-checked, as if to beckon to them to jump in and stop the bludgeoning. But I'm telling you, it was like, it's unbelievable. This is the thing with politicians, man. Like, I know, because I've run twice. I know a lot of these people, like, they're, what's the phrase? They're a mile wide and an inch deep, so to speak. Everything. There's very little substance. They don't even understand the issues. They might be able to give like a spicy little campaign speech, but they couldn't tell you shit about the PRO Act. They couldn't tell you about the history of Davis-Bacon. They couldn't tell you about foreign policy and any sort of depth level. JD Vance clearly knows his stuff and is able to talk the talk. And when you run up against somebody who just trots out one stock platitude after the next, it's not pretty, right? Because you just get annihilated. And then add to that Walz is almost a worse liar, a bigger liar than Joe Biden. And that is really saying something. It's like everything about this dude's past is completely fabricated.
Yes.